The Green Lakes of Kanchenjunga, Paradise Lost. In October last year, I made a trip to the Green Lakes at the very base of Kanchenjunga, third highest mountain in the world. The trip was organized by my friend Sujoy Das of South Col Expeditions, who had always had a strong desire to return to Green Lakes. Over 25 years had passed, and the rumor was that global warming had wiped out the lakes forever. As it turned out, we were to encounter the destructive nature of climate change on the very first day of our trek. Barely an hour after we had left the road-headed Lachen, following the right bank of the Zemu Chu, the well-defined trail disappeared into sheer nothingness. The entire hillside had been wiped out by landslides, for as far as the eye could see. The process of glacial retreat had removed the firm ice support at the bottom of these hillsides. With nothing to hold them up, the slopes had simply washed away in the heavy monsoons. The next day, as we set out from Thalem under an overcast sky, the trail and the forests thankfully reappeared. As we proceeded up the valley under the towering peaks of the Lama Ongdin range, more evidence of climate change became apparent. The rhododendron cover, which was confined to the proximity of the riverbed, now spread its way up the mountain slopes as the weather had warmed. The Zemu Glacier, which drains the east side of Kanchenjunga, had retreated 860 meters in the period 1909 to 2005, and the snout had moved much further upstream from its location in 1987 at our acclimatization halt of Yabuk. 4 days into the trip, we reached our night halt of rest camp at a height of 4,500 meters, right opposite the staggeringly beautiful Sinyolchu, almost 7,000 meters high. As my eye traveled right, I could see little Sinyolchu and the ice cream cake of Simbu, and finally the magnificent spectacle of Kanchenjunga at the head of the valley. The next morning, we set out for our final destination of Green Lakes, following the alpine meadow on the right side of the giant Zemu Glacier moraine. There was no trail anymore, and we forded several minor streams of meltwater as we wound our way upwards. At last we could see our tents and the end of the line. And just beyond, our eyes took in the horribly ugly mud flat which was all that remained of the magical Green Lakes. Global warming had claimed yet another victim. Above it, another massive landslide had obliterated the route to the high viewing point. We scrambled up the side of the moraine, which we had been following for the last 2 days, and stared down in silence at the shocking spectacle far below. The shrunken Zemu Glacier was a surreal sight, with huge pools of green water speckled among a grotesquely twisted landscape of ice and rock debris that stretched downwards as far as the eye could see. The river of ice had dropped 150 feet below its lateral moraines, and several small glacial lakes had formed on its surface. It was an awesome, though chilling reminder of the irreversible impact of climate change, brought home in the most graphic way imaginable. To me, what was most frightening was the thought that the carbon-generating actions of millions of us in the teeming cities and towns of the Indian subcontinent could have played a part in wreaking such havoc in this pristine mountain wilderness so very far away from any human civilization. Truly, it brought home the fact that we are an interconnected world. Everything we do affects everyone and everything and everywhere else. We need to act now before we are irrevocably committed to destructive warming trajectories which cannot be reversed. We need to act together because climate change is a crisis of the global commons and all countries must play their part through an equitable and efficient climate deal. And finally, we need to act differently to cope with the vastly different climate of the future by rethinking our approach to how we use energy to reduce carbon emissions, how we build robust infrastructure, and how we conserve scarce water and land resources. Thank you.